Welcome to another episode of the ASUN Gameday podcast. I'm your host, William Hall, and I don't know anywhere else to start but talking about the Eagles. I mean, everybody's talking about the Eagles. I'm high on the Eagles. Hey, whoa. It's Super Bowl week, not those Eagles.
Yeah.
The FGCU Eagles. That's what we're talking about. Let me clear that up. On the women's side, FGCU 10-0, still doing what they've been doing all year, and that's pretty much just win. I mean, they had a 0-2 start. They had a blip there against Montana State, but other than that, they have just won the entire season, sitting at 19-3. But they're most importantly, they're 10-0 in conference play, and they're the first team, men or women, to lock up a postseason berth in the ASUN championship. They handle their business at home against Lipscomb, against Austin Peay. They're going on the road against Bellarmine and EKU this week with a chance to extend that winning streak to 14 games to move to 12-0 in conference play and look at already kind of locking up a hosting situation for the tournament. Looking at the Bellarmine and EKU games, a few weeks ago, we were talking about those teams coming down to Fort Myers and the challenges that stood ahead. And look, every week is a challenging week, but you just took care of business with those teams at home. You got to go on the road, and it should be interesting. But, I mean, obviously FGCU, we've kind of mentioned it before. They have not skipped a beat with the coaching change that happened early in the season. And, hey, they're right where we thought they would be, probably where they thought they would be, 10-0 in the driver's seat to have the tournament run through Fort Myers for yet another year. And speaking of tournaments running through Fort Myers, I get it. We're week to week with all of this on the women's side. But on the men's side, I mean, you're in sole possession if you're the FGCU men's basketball team of first place on the men's standings at 8-2. I think that this team, I don't want to say they've done it quietly, but I kind of do want to say quietly. I mean, they just have been winning, clearly. But I think it's been in a way that we've talked about the Lipscomb and you know, Jacksonville most recently, UNF earlier in the season, North Alabama, all those teams that have deserved the time that we've given them and the attention we've given them, clearly. But FGCU, in the midst of all that, have just been doing what they needed to do as well. They stacked up wins. They've beaten teams when they need to beat them. I mean, the game we talked about last week, the Jacksonville game was the game that I was really looking forward to, FGCU at Jacksonville. And crazy comeback in that game. They pulled that one out on the road. And now, you know, between that and what happened in the River City Rumble, Jacksonville is on the outside looking in towards the top. Now, again, nobody's out of the postseason. Nobody's eliminated. We're not at that point now. Nobody's even clinched on the men's side. It's a little bit tighter than the women's race. But FGCU sitting pretty right now. I mean, what other place would you want to be than at 8-2 at the top of the standings with 8 games left to go in conference play? You know, we're into the month of February now, and I mean, you've had some challenging games, the tough opponents, and you're coming out of this and you only have 2 losses to show for it. We talked about Queens, a team that has been well deserved in what they've done, and you know, FGCU's got to split with Queens when things kind of shake out. Those are kind of games that you've got. So, you know, looking at the rest of their schedule, they've got EKU, North Florida, Austin Peay, Lipscomb. They got Jacksonville again, got Stetson again. They've got 2 games with North Florida still on their schedule, and they've got Bellarmine. So, still a lot of basketball to be played, but FGCU on the men's and the women's side, pretty good spot to be right now, especially the women who have already locked up their trip to the postseason. And that's just, at this point, February 1st, saying that you're in the tournament and you know that's secured. Now you're battling for, as I said earlier, you're battling for home court. You're battling for the regular season championship. You're battling for not having to leave Fort Myers, Florida, for the entirety of that week-long tournament that we have. And that's huge, to just have everybody have to come into your building where you're tough to beat anyway. That's been their MO, the thing they've been able to do for several years consecutively. And here we are again with FGCU looking like the champs that we thought they would be. They still got to win it, though. I'm not crowning them yet, but they do have an asterisk on our standings because they are in the postseason. So congratulations to FGCU.
There is no need to give them any more motivation. Like, they go into every game motivated very clearly because there's records to keep. There's home court records to build back. There's ASUN records to keep going. They are always motivated.
Yeah. And I think that on the men's side, you've still got it's 8. They're 8-2, and let's not look past the Lipscombs, the North Alabamas, the Queens, the Jacksonvilles. All those teams are 7-3. Like, they're right there. I mean, we have a quote unquote bad week from FGCU. They drop a couple games. One of those teams wins too. It could flip again. I mean, that's where we are right now. But I mean, obviously, going to give some praise to FGCU for where they are, especially as hot as Jacksonville was a week ago, and FGCU went in that building and beat them. So giving credit to people who went into buildings and specifically into Swisher and picked up a win. I gotta give a little credit to, not a little credit. I'm going to give a lot of credit to North Florida. I think that there were some people that might have written them off based on how things have been going in conference play, but to go into Swisher, get that win against the crosstown rival River City Rumble, they got up for that game and they came out firing. Now, credit to Jacksonville, because that game comes down to a last minute shot. That shot could have fallen from Rob McCray. We could have been going to overtime. The outcome could have been very different. But North Florida, they got the dub. They got the win. I think that's big. And that men's race is tight. Like I said, Lipscomb, North Alabama, Queens, still right there. And then right behind them, you've got AKU at 6-4. This thing isn't signed, sealed, and delivered and going anywhere right now on the men's side. And on the women's side, I know FGCU is 10-0, but Central Arkansas is 9-1 and right on their heels. And those teams only play once. Our rematch of our women's basketball final from last season happens on February 20th. I do have the date circled for that. That's the one time that these teams match up. So for Central Arkansas, they already have the one loss. If FGCU, for things go in their favor, they run the table, but they had the loss head-to-head against UCA, well, then we can go down to tiebreakers, and we're splitting some hairs there for seeding, share the regular season championship. Again, a lot of games to be played, but Central Arkansas is right there. Now,
that would be crazy, by the way.
It can happen. I mean,
it could happen. It would be crazy. UCA beats FGCU for home court advantage. Would be cool.
It would a little bit. The tiebreakers would work out for a seeding. It would be, we'd go down a little bit of a rabbit hole there. But just to have to do that, I think shows that, and again, that game is in Conway. So if it goes, say you work out of the situation where, the one seed goes to FGCU because of net rankings or something like that, then you're in a position where you did beat them on your home floor, but now you got to go back and you play it out, and we have that repeat of that final in Fort Myers. Just fantasy booking a little bit here, but I think that's very interesting. But looking at the women's standings, I mean, you've got FGCU 10-0, you got Central Arkansas 9-1, and then there's a drop as far as wins, because then you go to a handful of 6-4 teams. You've got Lipscomb, Stetson, North Alabama. Lipscomb obviously is a team that we thought was going to be at the top of the women's standings. They still are, but they're a few games back now after dropping 2 on the week. I would say Stetson and North Alabama may be a bit higher than people thought they would be. Now, North Alabama, first-year head coach, they're grinding. They're in the mix. They're handling their business. Stetson, Lynn Breer's teams always fight. The question and the question mark I have next to Stetson is on the road. That's in their building in the Edmonds Center. Yeah. They're locked in, but when they go on the road, that's challenging. And I think that's my one. That's my big question mark with Stetson. Can they improve what they do on the road to end up in a situation where they can get people to have to come to the land and play them there? They need, I think that home field, home court advantage, it's real, but it's certain teams it really benefits them. I kind of put Stetson in the mindset of Jacksonville as well. Like, I think that those are two teams that are very hard to play in their buildings. Mm-hmm. Those environments, they're just tight. The crowd is on you. The cheer and the band and everything's on you. And those teams play well in those buildings. And then they on the road, it's a different story. So I wanted to see Stetson. 6-4 right now. They're tied for third in the standings right now.
I want to really quick give a shout out to Stetson because they do play Stetson brand of basketball on the women's side. What Limbria does is fun to watch, and we posted a clip this week of Promise Keshi like blocking. I think it was Clara McGowan just out of the gym. Like it was a really cool block. So if you guys didn't see that, go check us out. Go check our Instagram or YouTube page. That was an awesome play.
They're a team that's going to compete. 1-7 on the road. That's all I'm going to say there. But shout out to Stetson because Cameron Thomas, player newcomer of the week on the women's basketball side. Stetson's handling business. They're winning. Again, I want to see what they can do on the road to keep things going. But shout out to Cameron Thomas, our player and newcomer of the week in women's basketball. Freshman of the week on the women's side, Destiny Jones got her second Freshman of the Week award of the season. Shout out to her. And on the men's side, J.O., men's basketball player of the week. He's continuing to drop gems and drop more reasoning why he should be considered for our postseason player of the year. He's had a great year, had a 32-point game over the weekend. And then George Kimball from EKU is our newcomer of the week on the men's basketball side. EKU, it's a team they're kind of up and down a little bit, but I think they've got some veteran experience there, and I think that coming down this stretch, I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm expecting EKU to kind of make a push and find themselves higher in the standings where they are right now. Again, we've got 4 weeks left of this season, 8 games to go. A lot of basketball to be played. A lot of more of this episode coming, though. I'm going to take a quick break, and when I'm back, it's time for the Power Rankings. I'm here with Queens women's basketball head coach Jim Brown. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing well. All smiles today.
All smiles today. I mean, it's a Friday.
Yeah.
Welcome to the conference office.
Oh my goodness.
The setup here.
It's beautiful here. Y'all doing some good things here.
Thanks.
So
Appreciate it. So, just gonna have a little fun.
Okay.
We're gonna do a little word association. Now, it's not gonna be completely random.
Okay.
The words are random. Obviously, I'm just throwing some stuff out there, but
okay.
I need you to associate this with an ASUN team.
Okay.
And Queens is in the mix. So
okay.
if you're thinking and it's like that's us,
all right.
I'm 5 words. If we go 5 for 5 with a starting lineup for Queens,
okay.
we'll do that. We'll do that. So the first word is creative.
Ooh, creative. I would have to say Queens, and I'm not just being biased because I feel like our social media guy, he does his thing. He's really good, quick about editing videos. He gets a lot of songs. He do a lot of collaborative posts with our girls, and we get a lot of hits on that. So I would definitely have to say Queens.
Showing some love to the
Dom,
media people.
Shout out to Dom.
That's my guy.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. All right. Quick.
Ooh, Florida Gulf Coast. They fast.
Okay.
They fast. You definitely got to be in shape to play Florida Gulf Coast. They quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next, we're going to go with size.
I haven't played against them yet, but I have to say West Georgia. Because you watch them, they got 2 big monsters down there and to clean up everything in the paint. So I would have to say them. I haven't played against them yet, but watching them on film, they got some size.
Okay. Blue.
I mean, I gotta say Queens.
I have
to.
That's
a layup.
I had to throw another
little I caught that one. That
okay, all right. You put that one down.
Yes.
You put that one down. Rival.
Ooh, everybody.
Ooh,
Everybody's a rival. Yeah. ASUN top to bottom is such a competitive league, and any given night, anybody could be anybody. So every time we see any team in the ASUN, we don't like it.
Hey,
our rival.
Y'all like it.
Yeah.
We love it. I appreciate the time. We're going to talk soon.
All right. I appreciate you.
Welcome back, and it is time for the men's and women's basketball power rankings. And Patrick, I feel like I shook things up a lot this week. You may
Oh,
be
that's
like,
good.
no, but I don't. I feel like I don't know. We'll see.
This is probably the hardest week to do it, to be honest with you.
I
How are you going
don't-
to separate those 7-3 teams?
I think I shook things up, but the play on the court, there's a cause and effect.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. They did it.
They did it.
Let's start with women because I think there's less of a
Yeah.
shuffle here. 6 is Jacksonville. 5 is EKU. 4 North Alabama. 3 Stetson. 2 Central Arkansas. 1 FGCU. Now, I understand. These are power rankings. So I'm just looking at right now who is playing the best.
Best ball. Yeah.
The best ball. So there is a team who we just highlighted earlier in the standings. If you look at the standings, you might want to know where is this certain team. I won't say their name, but you could, if we just talked about them. Power rankings, they're not in my top 6 right now. They had a tough weekend. On the men's side.
Really quick, I think Central Arkansas is like the most interesting team in the ASUN right now, and I think they deserve just us to talk a little bit about them. They'll be coming in the office this week, so be on the lookout for a lunchbox with one of their student athletes. We'll keep that a surprise for you guys, but it's gonna be really fun to have them in the office, and then they're just rolling right now. And you and I were talking earlier this week is like, oh, like what about this player on that team? What about this player? It's like they just got a lot of people that can ball. And when you talk about the ASUN conference and taking down the number 1 team in their power ranking, FGCU, is a powerhouse in this conference, like you just got to have a lot of ballers. And they had the experience last year. Can they push them this year?
Yeah.
It's exciting. I
mean, outside of a Bellarmine team that's competitive and was having a great non-conference run, I think that might have been the first weekend of conference play when they lost that game to Bellarmine. I mean, outside of that, they're 10-0 as well. And like we said before, that game between those two teams, it's only happened once, and it hasn't happened yet. And it's happening February 20th. It's pretty late in the season. Like it's gonna, mean, it's not like we're talking about they played in mid-January. I mean, they're playing February 20th, and their tournament's getting started on March 7th. So there's not a lot of time to turn around. So I say that to say that game has a chance to, when FGCU and Central Arkansas play, to turn around and really give you things that the teams might not be that much different by tournament time at that point in the season. Yeah. You play a team second week of January, and you're talking about this second week of March. It's a big difference. But February 20th to a team you may face off, I don't know how things will shake out. Semifinal, that type of team, those type of teams, that game could play effect. But I'm with you on the UCA thing. 9-1, they 8 wins in a row, 100%.
And to be more precise, exactly what we're talking about is like they have 3 capable guards that I think you'd be comfortable with them just all being a primary ball handler in Randrea Wright, Jade Upshaw, and Kinley Fisher. And like, that's good. That's really, really good. And you got to be happy with that. And it's easy to forget one of them in a game. And maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing. But it's just you have the depth at that position.
I don't think, not a coach, I don't think depth could ever be a problem. I think that's definitely a good problem to have. Yeah. In the sense, and it is the depth. It is the options that you have on the floor, and that's what you want. Somebody's a little cold. You got places to go with the ball, and I think that's what you're going to need, obviously, to win our championship. And winning our championship, from what the league has taught me for the 5 years that I've been here on the women's basketball side, means getting past FGCU. So you do need to have weapons to be able to go toe to toe with them. So I February 20th, I'm waiting on it. Men's power rankings. Number 6, I've got North Alabama. 5 is Lipscomb. 4 is North Florida. 3 is Queens. 2 is EKU. 1 is FGCU. This is the one that I felt like was going to get the look that I'm getting right now.
Yeah.
You can't see
EKU's a
the
little
look
too high. Jacksonville is honestly
too
low for me.
Why do you say EKU's too high? What's your reasoning for them being too high?
I think the Stetson game is still very fresh in my mind, and that's not their fault. They should have won that game. Whenever you get a crazy,
so if you take the Stetson game out of it, They've got 5 in a row.
Yeah, then they're good. But that game is
They
just
beat.
such a hard.
Okay, so the top.
It's a memorable game. I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay, but after the Stetson game, that same weekend, they beat the team that's number 1 in our standings right now, FGCU. They
Right.
beat them. They also beat Lipscomb on the road this past week.
Yeah.
They beat Austin P. I don't discount beating Austin P. So I get what you're saying, but 2 of those 3 wins, I think all 3 of them are good wins because I think Austin P is a much better team than their record is showing. But standing wise and what we've talked about, FGCU and Lipscomb, 2 of those they got 2 of them in the past week and a half. That's why I have EKU where I have them because outside of FGCU, which I mean they've got FGCU has 2 wins in a row because they lost to EKU. 3 games, is it a huge long winning streak? No. Is it the longest we have in men's basketball today? Yes. So
Good point. Good point.
Jacksonville.
There you go. I would put Jacksonville at 6. Bad loss. 2 bad losses, and they're not bad in like those teams that they played are bad. It's more bad in like you lost your big rivalry game at home.
I will say
That
this.
just stinks. It stinks. You never want to be on that side.
1,000% my opinion. I think both of those games are bad for 2 completely different reasons. The first one I think is bad because of it felt like the lead they lost was much bigger than what it actually was.
Yeah.
They were in control of that game, up 19 at the half. I get it's basketball. I mean, we just saw, Austin P scored, I can't remember how many, 50, 60 points or whatever it was in the second half against North Florida to start. But
Luka got traded for pocket change, so
there you go.
Anything could happen in the basketball world.
So I and this is why I would say that one is bad because they kind of let that one go. The North Florida game is, I say, a bad loss, and it's not because that's a bad team that they lost to. It's just that's bad because it's the rivalry. You want to get it, and that's me speaking for them. That loss is a loss. It's 2 losses. So I think that Jacksonville should have probably been able to beat North Florida. If I had to pick a team going into that game, I probably would have leaned Jacksonville. How they were playing going into the weekend. Now, I leaned a little bit the other way after watching them lose to FGCU on last Thursday. So
the first 15 minutes of that game and the back 25 are completely different Jacksonville teams.
Well,
the first 15, they just got blitzed. And
right. And when
I don't want to say gave up, but they kind of gave up a little bit, it felt like. And then they started building their way back up. And they kept – the thing about when you play UNF is when they hit a bunch of threes, they change your brain chemistry, and you're like, well, I need to do that now to catch up. When Jacksonville started playing their game again and being physical and getting calls and going to the rim and
UNF started missing?
Right, UNF started missing, but there was times in the first half where it was they're missing, but then Jacksonville would take bad threes, and you're like, oh my God,
it wasn't just that.
Here?
It was not. Yeah, I would say it wasn't just that UNF was missing. You're right. Jacksonville was they got more physical. They started playing.
Yeah, you lean on McCray, you lean on Payne, you lean on Munson,
and that's what leads that game to be
a game.
Yeah, that's what leads to a 1-possession game from a game that was almost 20 points. It felt like at one point in time. I know it was close to it. It was. I
think it was 21.
Yeah, it was. They
got it down to 3.
They lost by 3. I mean, they lost on a shot that had McCray made that shot over there in the corner right in front of his bench.
Yeah, it would have been tied.
We're going into overtime. So credit them for battling back in that game, but they did take a hit to me because of the 2 losses, and the teams that I have in the power rankings did not lose twice. I mean, talk about teams who were looking like they needed to bounce back. I think Jacksonville is where Queens was a week ago. Queens had the losses after their start, had the losses, and they turn around and get it back going. Like, the adversity comes, how do you bounce back? So that's what I'm kind of looking at for Jacksonville. That rolls right into my matchups to watch for the week, and I think that on the women's side, it's Central Arkansas at Jacksonville. that is. I know we're talking about Jacksonville men, but just kind of easy, sort of kind of a transition. Central Arkansas, Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville is, like I stated before, it's tough to beat at home. Central Arkansas still trying to keep it rolling. Based on other results and some Central Arkansas wins this weekend, Central Arkansas can be right along with FGCU with an asterisk next to their name and have locked up a spot in the postseason this weekend. If they come out of this weekend at, obviously clearly 11-1 could probably get it done. But 10-2, they get a split on the weekend. So no, they want to get both of them. But I think this is a chance to come on the road, but keep that momentum going. I think Jacksonville can play spoiler, though. I think Jacksonville can really because they've got – you talked about those options and those players on the UCA side. That's my game of the week because Jacksonville's got some ballers on that side of the floor too. So that's the biggest one for the weekend. Also on the women's side, Stetson at EKU. I kind of tipped this off earlier, but on the road for Stetson is where I want to see can they get it done. They've got their one win of the season on the road was in conference play. EKU is a team that, like the men, they're kind of up and down on the women's side, but I want to see Stetson on the road. Lipscomb at Austin P. That close, not as close as Jacksonville UNF, but I think there's still sort of a rivalry there. I mean, their cities are not that far apart. Austin P. still in the mix and things. They hit or miss here and there. Lipscomb, obviously with 2 losses last week, FGCU. The Stetson game was very close, but just getting back up. They're not at home. They're at F&M Bank Arena, but that's another one I've circled for the weekend just to see how Lipscomb bounces back and what Austin P can do there. And on the men's side, I think this is a weekend of rematches on the men's side. We got North Alabama at Austin P. I'm giving that game of the week just because of the game, 2 weeks ago, the overtime game at UNA, and we're right back about to do it again, just this time in Clarksville. At EKU at FGCU, game we talked about earlier when EKU got the win against FGCU. They get to run it right back again. This time they're in Fort Myers. And another rematch on the week, Lipscomb at Queens. Now we rewind back a few weeks and that when Queens beat Lipscomb, that was kind of a statement about where Queens is going to be this season. And I think since then, Lipscomb's had a couple of losses. Queens has had some losses, but those teams are 2 teams that are clearly at the top. So getting to see them face off again is going to be exciting. And this time they're doing it in Charlotte. So looking forward to that one. A lot of great games on the horizon, but tomorrow is opening day for softball. It's finally here. Spring sports are in full swing, and it's softball season. Had our softball preseason show. It's time to get rolling. Baseball next week.
That's on demand if you still want to see it on ESPN Plus.
I missed the plug. I'm sorry. Give it to him again. One more time.
Yeah, if you want to catch the softball showcase, I put together myself with a lot of help from our universities. Check that out on demand currently on ESPN Plus. So if you go to the Atlantic Sun Conference on ESPN Plus in the category section, you'll find that on demand. It should be number 1 right now. By the time it's come out, so you might have, or the time that you listen to, there might be a couple basketball replays on there beforehand. So just do some scrolling, you'll find it.
Hey,
that's
sons,
the plug.
We love the plug. I'm glad you got the plug in. You did a lot of hard work on that. Appreciate your hard work. Appreciate the hard work you put in here every week, and we'll be doing it again next week. I'm William Hall signing off. See you on the next episode of the ASUN Game Day podcast.